Before we move on to week 7, let's just do a quick recap of how I did in week 6 for my my Fatums, my Love'ems, as well as with my DK daily fantasy football recommendations. So I did say that at $6,100, I thought you should pay up for DeAndre Swift. He ended up being worth it. He didn't necessarily help you win the jackpot or anything like that, but he came through all right. And I said if you wanted to go for a contrarian buy, somebody who might be less owned, I thought that Tyler Algier would probably fit into that category, and that did not work out. The game flow didn't work out like I thought it would in order to have him get more carries. He still ended up having quite a few carries, quite a bit of work, but it didn't really amount to anything. And for a big tournament long shot, I thought if Roschon Johnson missed the game, then I would have gone with Deonta Foreman. I did go with Deonta Foreman in a lineup at $4,400, and unfortunately, with Justin Fields going down, that offense was not great. He did okay, but there were no touchdowns. For my Fatums, I gave you Derrick Henry, which in the first half of the game was looking like a fantastic choice. And then they remembered that they have Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry remembered that he is the king, and he had a gigantic second half. And then Brian Robinson was the other name that I gave you, and he did pretty good. So it didn't really do too great with the Fatums. Overall this week, I did quite well with my Fatums and Love'ems across all positions. And I did do good with my Love'ems here. Swift was a Love'em of mine. He did pretty good. And Ramondre Stevenson was also a Love'em, and he was tied for running back 7 on the week. So that worked out. Let's move on to the week 7 rankings. All right, so obviously you can see where my rankings are on the screen. By the way, please like, comment, subscribe to the video if you have any comments. Like is always appreciated, and of course subscribing is great. But I do want to quick explain before we get into the rankings what you're looking at on the screen in case you are new. Low end, high end, the expected range of outcomes. It's a projection of how they should end up this week based on how they've done so far this season, based on how the defense that they're going up, how well they've done this season. And also to the left of the names, you can see this little red to blue. It'll go on that range, so white would be in the middle. Temperature gauge for the players. This is based on the matchup and just how good the player is to see if maybe they can overcome a bad matchup or not. Red is good in all of these categories. Blue is bad, and lukewarm. White is just kind of average. So you will notice I am ranking right now Christian McCaffrey as if he is playing. We will see. I'm also ranking the other San Francisco running backs as if he is not playing. So they're all ranked as if they're starting, just to make things a little bit more simplistic. And of course, if Christian McCaffrey's going, he's the best running back option that there is. Kenneth Walker's in an excellent matchup this week against Arizona. Look for him to explode. Raheem Mostert, I actually have a little bit of concern just because Philly is a really, really good run defense. You still have to like him quite a bit. There's a lot of upside. I just think there's some bust potential there. Austin Eckler in at running back 4, Josh Jacobs 5, Travis Etienne Jr., Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, DeAndre Swift, Isaiah Pacheco, Bijan Robinson. If you have any of those 11 guys, I think that they are must-starts, and just missing that must-start territory is Aaron Jones, and that is because, first of all, he's at the top of my second tier there. And Aaron Jones is in a great matchup, so it would be hard to sit him regardless of what the news comes out if he is starting this week, basically. But there is some concern still with his health coming into the week. We don't quite know where that's at. There's no guarantee that he's at full health. There's not even a guarantee that he'll be starting this weekend. So just keep an eye on that. Listen for any news clips, bits about where his health is at. And just in case anything's sounding really bad, or of course, come back, check out the rankings on Sunday, half hour prior to the early set of game, 1 hour prior to the, the main slate of games. So we're not going to talk about every running back in this group. These are still essentially guys that you are almost certainly going to start, especially at the high end here with James Cook, Brian Robinson, Jerome Ford. A little bit about Jerome Ford here at running back 15. There has been an emergence of Kareem Hunt being utilized more post-bye for the Cleveland Browns offense, which was semi-unexpected. I wouldn't say completely unexpected. And that said, it was only a small decrease in the snap share for Jerome Ford. I don't think that you need to be afraid of him absolutely disappearing and Kareem Hunt taking everything, because just like it was a small decrease for him, it was a relatively small increase for Kareem Hunt's snap shares. Now, their usages were much more similar. So regardless, I do think that Jerome Ford is safe, and they're going up against Indianapolis, which was already a good matchup, and they just lost one of the best defenders against the run along their defensive line, so that's not going to help against Jerome Ford. Now, running back 16 have Ramondre Stevenson. Buffalo is on the good side of matchups for running backs who they're going up against. I think you got to start Ramondre again and hope that the targets come his way. That's going to be the big thing, especially if he can't find those holes along this Buffalo defensive line that many other running backs have found. And given how his offensive line has blocked for him, it's not a guarantee that he will find any of those holes. And how he's run, it's not all his offensive line's fault. Then Roschon Johnson, we have at running back 17. I have a slight fear that nothing new happens in terms of his usage, but my hope and expectations that he'll be the lead back are seemingly backed up by a lot of the Chicago beat writers' expectations as well. So I'm going to hold on to that belief with my rankings. Little piece in the back of my mind that says Deonta Foreman's going to be the Khalil Herbert, and he's going to continue in the role that he had prior to Khalil going down. It's not an amazing matchup going up against the Las Vegas Raiders for them, but it's not a scary one either. They'll probably have an undrafted rookie quarterback at the helm, which is good and bad for a guy like Roschon Johnson. Good because of an increased reliance on the rushing attack, more opportunities, that's great. Bad because this could be an totally inept offense, less scoring opportunities, fewer third down conversions, fewer good first down plays, and the defense is just going to be able to key in and stuff the runner quite potentially if that ends up being the case. And then we have Jonathan Taylor in at running back 18, and his usage increased from 15% to 42% in his second week back from the IR. I don't expect Zach Moss to absolutely disappear, at least not yet. He hasn't played poor enough to deserve to be disappeared. But I do think that a roughly 60-40 split is most likely where we're going to land up between these two. So it's still going to be a little bit more of an increase of usage for Jonathan Taylor this coming up weekend compared to last weekend where I think he was at 52%. That's going to bring us into the final tier here. And by the way, complete rankings are all up on the website, www.theffforge.com. I do have many, many more running backs ranked, maybe 60-ish. So this is my third tier, starting off there at running back 19 with Alexander Mattison. I think that there's going to be a lot of shuffling around yet of these players in this tier. I really don't like how I currently have them ranked. So I'm mostly going to say who I think is too high and who is too low, who has the most, why I think they're too high or too low currently in the rankings. There's a lot going into some of the decisions of these guys, and frankly, in a lot of cases, I just need more information to see where things kind of line up by the time that we get to the end of the week. So in the event of Alexander Mattison, he is going up against the San Francisco 49ers defense. Obviously, we don't like that. He's a candidate to be lowered in my rankings as the week goes along, and heck with it. Let's just put a Fatum tag right on Alexander Mattison. Frankly, I do not agree with that upper end of his expected range against San Francisco there at 12.5 points. That feels a little bit too high to me. Then at running back 20, we have Zach Moss, and as I said, I still think that he gets a fair bit of usage. It's an ugly matchup for the Indianapolis Colts. He is a candidate to be lowered in my rankings simply because of that matchup. Then at running back 21, we have Rachaad White. You have to rank Rachaad White at a certain point just because he is the lead back. There's really nobody else there in Tampa. This might be too high given some of the other options this week. At the same time, I'm not 100% sure about that yet. Then at running back 22, we have Jahmyr Gibbs, and we've already seen Craig Reynolds and himself take this backfield over when David Montgomery missed a week, and Jahmyr Gibbs dominated the workload. That was in week 3. That said, Jahmyr Gibbs was not coming off of an injury at that point in time. We don't even know yet if he is a go for this week. He is a candidate to be moved up or down, and Craig Reynolds is a candidate to be moved up drastically, really, from the running back 45 spot that I currently have on him. He did not make this list, obviously. My biggest concern about Craig Reynolds, regardless of how much usage he gets, is that I hate the matchup for him. I really don't think it's good. Baltimore can shut the run down. That's their opponent. In the event that Jahmyr Gibbs is playing, at least in this matchup, I think that he could find a lot of success in the receiving game as a proto running game, short screens, etc. That's where I'm a little bit optimistic for Jahmyr Gibbs this week despite the matchup. Then we have Jaleel McLaughlin in at running back 23, and he's a candidate to be moved up. Green Bay is not good against the run, and we saw Jaleel not only take over the Samaje Perine role this last weekend, which may also have been in part due to an injury to Samaje, so we can't say for 100% confidence that that is the case. But we also, I think, saw him bite into some of Javante's role. I could see himself and Javante going forward, basically splitting this backfield roughly 50-50, depending on factors like the game script, the game plan, and whoever has the hot hand. And as of now, I think that Jaleel McLaughlin is the guy with the hot hand. I'm going to go ahead and give Jaleel McLaughlin a love 'em against the Packers. That's going to bring us to Jaylen Warren in at running back 24, going up against the Los Angeles Rams. And I would have more confidence in putting him up higher in my rankings if it wasn't for the fact that the Los Angeles Rams are a pretty poor matchup for running backs, and I don't have a whole lot of confidence in Pittsburgh. Just not overly excited about that. Then we have Zach Evans in at running back 25, and his running style is a perfect match for the Sean McVay offense. He was taken lower than many thought that he would be in this past year's draft. I think that Zach Evans may take this opportunity and run with it. Their offensive line has been blocking quite well for Kyren Williams so far. He is a love 'em for me as well. That brings us to Javonte Williams in at running back 26. It's a good matchup, and Jaleel isn't taking all of the work. He's a candidate to move up just because of someone being moved behind him, not really moving him specifically up. Then at running back 27, we have Salvon Ahmed. He's another candidate to be moved up, largely depending on the Jeff Wilson situation, which we may not know until Saturday or Sunday, so very fluid where his ranking will end up based on that. A running back in this offense is always viable and could go off for one reason or another, even against a good rushing defense like the Philadelphia Eagles have. Then at running back 28, we have Elijah Mitchell, and I already said I'm ranking him and Jordan Mason as if Christian McCaffrey is out, despite having Christian McCaffrey ranked as if he is in. Minnesota has been a pretty good team against the run, and there are question marks that we may not get the answers to regarding these two's usage, Elijah Mitchell's and Jordan Mason's. I expect Elijah to get more usage, but it could be near a 50-50 kind of share situation. That's possible. Not what I'm expecting, but we still have to accept that that's very possible. There's still a possibility that it's Jordan Mason over Elijah Mitchell. Elijah is a candidate to be moved up, not down, but he may come with a fair amount of risk, which may hold him down ultimately in my rankings compared to the upside that I see for him in a matchup that I think San Francisco is going to be able to manhandle Minnesota. There you can see I have three not ranked guys. Jeff Wilson could be playing. Samaje Perine might be fine. Kyren Williams, I think we just got some confirmation that he's going to be out almost indefinite, like for sure, so he'll be moving to out here soon enough. But for now, it's not ranked. Probably won't rule him out until later in the week. And you'll notice I don't have a second fade him right now, so I went lower in my rankings because like some of these guys, I just feel like you kind of have to start them compared to taking some of these risks. I don't know. Once again, these love-ems, maybe they move up a little ways ahead of some of them. It's very much possible. But ultimately, I didn't really want to fade them. I thought about giving a fade to Raheem Mostert, but you're starting him regardless if I have a fade or not on him just because of my concern about the bust. So that would feel useless. So what I ended up doing was going down in my rankings a little bit, and Najee Harris is somebody that I do still have below where the ECR is on him by a little ways, and I'm just not very confident about. Don't like him in this matchup, don't like him in any matchup really a whole lot this season. So my second fatum is Najee Harris. Let's move on to my DFS buys. Get this over with. Who do I think is worth paying for? At the near the top of the charts, we got Kenneth Walker at 7,000. That seemed like a decent value actually for where I have him ranked and what his upside is this week in a good matchup. Then we have a good priced guy, Isaiah Pacheco, at $6,100. If he ends up being the number 10 running back on the week, he would outproduce that $6,100 cost almost certainly. And as a big tournament long shot, I have Kenneth Gainwell at $4,500 versus Miami. That could be a high scoring game. Kenneth Gainwell still does get on the field, still does get usage, and so this is not a defense to be too afraid of. Could be one of those games where we see a Kenneth Gainwell bigger type of game, I believe. And that is it for my running backs. Thank you very much. Peace out.